Well, the plan for this week's video is to be working on this boy, our handy dandy automata base, but life got in the way. And in this case, life came in the form of a job. So instead of working on that this week, don't worry, we'll be coming back to that shortly. But for this week, the job at hand is to make a mold of this and get some resin castings made, because we're going to make 100 of these. They're necklaces, hang on a string, you'll see the whole thing. Anyway, that's what we're working on this week, and let's get started. The first thing I have to do when I get a job in that I didn't sculpt, in this case, my friend Crazy Al sculpted this, link in the description down below if you want to learn all about him. He's a tiki carver. Anyway, he carved this, so my first job is to go over it and make sure that the thing will cast properly, that there aren't any places where it'd be difficult to cast it. So right there, where my fingernail is, right there is about where I'm thinking I'm going to catch bubbles. So to fix that, I'm just simply going to taper it down so that it's just not available as a landing spot for bubbles. Change the design a small amount, but when you have to cast 100 of something, the last thing you want to do is repair 100 bubbles. So we'll go ahead and sculpt those down, taper them in so that it can't cast bubbles, and we'll be good to go. So done that job, and then we can get on to making the mold. All right, I broke out my handy dandy waxer, and we're going to use it to do two things. One is Al has marked out the location. He's actually drilled out the location of the holes for the string, and the string will pass right through there. But that's no good. We can't have that in the casting. I want to fill those holes, but I want to leave indications of where they are so that I know how to drill the holes and where to drill the holes in the final castings. And we'll do that right now using this blue sprue wax. Nice. That should have worked out real well. Let's let that wax cool. Yeah, perfect. That worked out great. Okay, so that's ready to go. You can see where the string is going to pass through. And now let's get him mounted using our favorite thing in the world. Well, no, our favorite thing in the world, as you all know, is 5-minute epoxy. But one of my also favorite things in the world is sticky wax. Just going to put a dollop of sticky wax on there and center it as best we can on the base. Get him down there. Just lock him on. I think that's going to be pretty good. Looks pretty good. It's hard to tell from your angle. It might be look a little off from your angle, but I think from mine I'm okay with that. It looks pretty well centered. I'll check them. And the way for me to check them is with a square to make sure you can see where the side of the mold is going to be. Yeah, you can see it. He's going to have lots of nice rubber all the way around him. Okay, perfect. I've got him all sealed up all around the base. The resin's going to pour down one leg, fill down here, and rise up, and the air is primarily going to rise out of the other leg. I added one more vent to this guy in a somewhat unfortunate location. It has no alternate meaning. I was afraid I would catch a bubble, so I wanted to vent out that part of his anatomy. So yeah, so that's done. And now all we need to do is make the mold case. And I'm just using some box cardboard, super thin, super light. And rubber would stick to this beautifully, it would bond to it. Woo, that would be bad. So we're not going to have that. What we are going to do is coat it in the most beautiful substance on the earth, beeswax. Let's get it hot. So now I'm just going to take a plastic tube and sort of wrap it around. I measure the circumference of the base, and then I cut this piece of cardboard to that dimension. So it should be a simple enough matter of taping it all together. Well, it's not the prettiest mold case I ever built, but it's the right size, and it's definitely going to work, so I guess we'll get him installed. Because I want this cylinder to be as round as possible, I'm going to cut a couple of outer rings, and that'll kind of help it hold its shape. The reason you want a cylindrical mold is so that when the rubber bands hold the mold closed, they press equally from all sides. If you make a mold rectangular or square, the rubber bands pull with really distorting, uneven force. This is going to make sure that my little homemade custom fit waxed cardboard tube will hold its shape really nicely when I put the rubber in it, like that. Now, I hear a lot of you out there saying, you put a lot of time and energy into this silly cardboard mold case. Why didn't you just use a plastic cup? And the answer is normally I would. But in this case, this particular mold didn't fit inside a plastic cup very much. It would have wasted a lot of rubber. And a lot of times you're going to have parts that you're going to mold where you just can't use a cup and you're going to have to build a custom mold case. So I thought this is as good an opportunity as any to show you one simple, cheap, and reasonably effective way to build a mold case. So it ain't pretty, but it will work and it will make a nice mold. One of the last things I need to do is to seal up the bottom and make sure that it will not leak. We'll seal up that side, let it cool, and just work our way all the way around. And just drop big goobers on there. You want it to hold together, but you need to be able to take it apart easily. If you build a case that's like ridiculously hard to take apart, that's no fun. When it's time to demold it, you want it to come apart easy. Okay, very good. So that's pretty well sealed, I think, all around. I don't see any pinholes. You wouldn't believe how tiny a pinhole this rubber can escape out of. It's amazing how small a hole this rubber can flow through. You'd think it was nice and thick and goopy and it wouldn't go anywhere, but no, it will definitely flow. We've got the mold made and now we just need to fill it up with rubber. So the question is, how much rubber do you mix up? That's always a good question. And for me, there's a number of ways you could do it. You could measure the volume. You could just mix small batches and just fill it in stages. Lots of different ways. For me, because I've been making molds for a long time, I go the lazy, simple way. And I just dig through the boxes and find an old mold that's, same diameter. This mold is obviously bigger, but it's just taller. So it turns out that I need about 3/4 of the weight of this mold to fill this mold. I weighed this mold, and so now I know that in order to fill the current mold, I'm going to need to mix about 300 grams of rubber. So this is silicone rubber. I buy it in the big buckets, and the reason for that is that it's the cheapest that way. At least it's the way that makes the most economical sense. It's just hideously expensive. And but a big bucket like this, 5-gallon bucket, is going to last me a long time. It's going to make a lot of molds. It's a 2-part system. Most silicone rubbers are a 2-part system. This is the rubber base and this is the hardener. And this manufacturer wants me to shake this stuff up, so I always do that. Always follow the manufacturer's directions. In order to make a 300-gram batch, I'm going to mix up 270 grams of the rubber base and 27 grams because it's a 10-to-1 ratio. So 270 grams of this, 27 grams of that is going to get us to, 297 grams. That's close enough. I measured out the rubber and the hardener, and I'm going to mix it up. But stirring it like this is going to put a lot of air into the mix. There's really no way to avoid that. And de-airing rubber is a problem. For us, we just use our vacuum chamber. So into the pot it goes. Put the lid on and fire it up. And away it goes. And it will just suck out all of the air quick and easy. It's going to be very hard for you to see this, but I'm pouring straight down. The trick to this is to pour from the bottom up as much as you can. And pour slowly. Let it rise and fill slowly. And try not to catch bubbles. Okay, let's carry him over to the hot box. We'll go over there and get him in the old box. It's nice and warm in there. And he's looking really good. Not seeing any leakage. Perfect. All right. We'll let that thing sit for 24 hours and we'll see how he looks tomorrow. Let's head on over to the hot box. See what's what. Let's grab out this. All right. How we doing here? Feels good. Feels nice and firm, so. All right, let's cut that boy open, see what we got. Okay, let's just cut this mold open. This is a waste mold. We're going to say goodbye to this mold. It's not going to survive the trip. It is going to die a horrible death, but with any luck, it did its job. And we'll have a nice mold. We'll know soon enough. See how that beeswax kept that rubber from sticking to that cardboard? Beauteous. Nice, perfect. Time to cut open the mold. I usually just like to kind of cut the flashing off. This really doesn't do anything much. Just makes the mold a little bit prettier on the edge. The art and science of cutting open a mold is knowing you're cutting blind, obviously, so you kind of have to know what you're doing. It's very useful to have taken photographs and or video of the piece to refer to. So the key is to make a very jagged cut, but where the cut touches the model, you want the cut as much as possible not to cross too much detail. So that's always the trick. Okay, nice. So far so good. I always like to cut very jagged so that the mold halves interlock back together again, which is how you want it to be. Very good. Coming down nice. Now I'm kind of in the back, but the arms are more in the front, so I'm going to have to make this transition over to where the arms are so that I catch them right. So you can see I don't know if you can see that, but I'm cutting down the arms. I have to cut through the arm openings. Okay, that's looking all right. Again, I want to cut down where the arms are. So it's very helpful to have a very clear picture in your head as to what you're cutting and why. If you don't, you just are going to make more unnecessary parting lines than you need, and that's never good. You want the fewest possible parting lines. And you want to be able to remove the casting with the shortest possible parting line. So it looks like that. We're going to get that out of there. Yeah. All right, he survived it well enough. We'll be able to reattach him nicely. Not a big repair. It's time to put the rubber bands on the mold. And this big bag of rubber bands. You can never find a rubber band that's exactly the right size to fit your mold, but you can make the rubber band fit your mold simply by tying knots in it. So all I have to do is make a little knot. What you're looking for when you put rubber bands on a mold is gentle, even pressure on the mold. You don't want to use like big, strong rubber bands. That's not good because then it might squeeze and distort the mold. And that is not what you want. Good, just like that. That's all you need. And I'll check the parting line. Looks good. All right, we're ready to pour resin. I weighed the little guy and he comes in at 28 grams. So that tells me to weigh up about a 30-gram batch of resin. Urethane resin is a two-part system. It's got the A side and the B side, and it's a 50-50 mix. One part of A, one part of B. So for a 30-gram part, we're going to mix up 15 grams of A and 15 grams of B equals 30. And we'll get on that and mix and pour some resin right now. Okay, let's pour some res. We know we're going to need a 15 batch of A. So set it to 10. Pour. We got 10, 12 and a half. Let's sneak up on 15. Okay, 15, beautiful. Set the scale to 25. We're going to want to get all the way to 30 of the B. I put some red dye into the B. That way it'll make a pink casting, and that way you can see it easier on camera. Super hard to see those white castings. Sneak up on the old B. Stir it up. I like to stir it up quick because it's a fast-setting resin. And it'll be ready to come out of the molds in like 20 minutes, 25 minutes the most. So you don't have a ton of time, but you want it to be very thoroughly mixed. Looking good. Okay, now let's pour it. Now I have figured out that he wants to catch bubbles under his chin. So in order to prevent that from happening, I'm making sure that his chin fills, I'm going to lay him down like this and rock him so I know that I'm pushing resin down into that chin. And I'm going to do that a couple of times actually as I fill him, making sure that the details in the front of his body are not catching bubbles. Okay, you can see it's almost all the way to the top. Still going to make sure I do that. Should be fine. I'm going to take you for a little ride over to the tank. Into the tank we go. Okay, so you can see him in the tank. Close the top valve. That's the outlet valve. I'm doing this one-handed, so you're going to have to see how good I can do this. Do this. Close the door. Take you for a ride on the valve. Okay, got the valve open. Tank is filling. All right, let's check our witness cup. Sounds good to me. Close the valve. Open the outlet valve. And let's see what we got. We started with a little wax model, very nice. From that we made a mold. And in fact, this is the last casting of the day, so let's pull it apart. Might as well pull it apart and see how we did. Let's take a little look and see how we did. Oh yeah, here he comes. Oh yeah. Put that aside. Oh yeah. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect bubble-free casting. Superb. And if you'll notice, I'm not sure if you can see it, but really there's remarkably little flash. Just so little. You simply cannot make cleaner castings. I've never found a better way to make cleaner castings than with cut molds, silicone cut molds. I don't care how carefully you clay up a casting, clay up a sculpture. I don't care how carefully you hand make the parting lines using that method. You are never going to have as clean a cast as you get with a one-piece silicone cut mold. It's just not going to happen. I haven't seen it happen anyway. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next video.